Hello and welcome to Pricing College with your hosts Aidan Campbell
and Joanna Wells.
In today's episode, we want to talk about aspects of the pricing strategy utilized by Apple that we like or think are noteworthy.
Yeah, look, Apple's a great case example for pricing and product innovation. Customers love it. It's very successful, but yeah, it has had its fair share of challenges, both in product life cycle and even now in terms of business competition. But in terms of pricing, it was one of the first to do pricing really well. It was one of the first to think about pricing and connect pricing and value to capture market share, to capture people's imaginations, to keep them coming back, and to drive profitability. So we're just going to talk about how they really do that. And just to start on that, I think let's look at the products. They've really just honed in on a very small number of products, very niche. Looked at making these products beautiful, shiny, user-friendly, different, but very, in terms of range, just really narrow in on range, so they can control the cost element of manufacturing, and also in terms of customer demand, control that and price accordingly.
So the first thing I really like about Apple is that it's almost the epitome of a company that thinks about value and pricing in their entire offer. Everything is linked together. It's the customer experience, it's the offer, it's the value, it's how people view their product versus other products. Whether that's Samsung, the leading other player, or other clearly cheaper versions that can do very similar things. They know exactly what people like about the product through focus groups and different methods. They advertise aspects, the lifestyle element of the software or the machines. They cater their telephones, or cater to certain demographics, and even like their computers. I don't know what the correct word is. I don't think they're called PCs because they're Apple Macs, I think. But those are aimed at people who are, whether in the artsy community, need certain software or just like that software. So they really know their demographic, they really know their target audience, and they seem to know it better than I think any other company I know.
Yeah, so relating to that, they know their audience, they've got a small product range, they know what people want. So what's their pricing strategy? Well, it's premium pricing. They pitch their pricing higher than everyone else because they know they've got a great thing that people want to buy. And as I was saying before, because they've got a smaller product range, and they know that sort of the number of customers and the huge amount of spend they're willing to pay for what they've got, they're able to control supply and demand for their products. So just in terms of customer spend in that industry, I think last year it was something like $500 billion spend. So it's huge, and they've captured a large share of that market. But in terms of their strategy, because they're going premium, they're going value based. What is their business strategy? Let's think about that. It's not necessarily market share. They're really going for profit here. But in so doing, they're capturing more market share because they really are honing in on what customers want to buy, their perceived value. And I suppose that has a knock-on effect on share price. So yeah, customer value leads to shareholder value.
Yeah, another thing I like about them is they're unashamedly a value-based business. It's always in the papers, everyone knows about it, that their products are manufactured generally in China. I think they're still made there by Foxconn or one of those companies. And they are manufactured and created at, let's be honest, a much cheaper cost than the phones and the devices are sold at. But there's no pressure in the business to lower their costs. There's no pressure when they bring out a new model to bring it out at a lower cost. And it's almost as if the cost plus pricing isn't even on their radar. They're so far removed from cost plus pricing and what most companies do that it's not even a discussion point.
Yeah, I suppose on that, because they know they've got control and visibility on, supply and demand, costs of production, and they've made their process so efficient, they have been able to streamline costs. But just because they have, that doesn't mean they've reduced prices, because they've got that premium anchor strategy, keeping prices up so they can continue to drive profitability. So it's sustainable, profitable growth. And what I suppose I really, really do, other than that, what I like about Apple, and what is like, signature note of Apple, is their ability to create closed ecosystems that sort of capture either IP in terms of their development IP software, or in terms of customers. They've got focus groups, forums, the Apple Apps store, to really capture the customers. Becomes a sticky model, so it's very hard to get out of it. That's what that closed sort of whether it's IP driven or customer driven, they do really want to capture and keep everything they acquire, and that's a really sort of interesting model. And I think a lot of Apple customers are very willing to and they love that kind of model because they get so much value out of it. I think the debate recently has been, especially for the Apple App Store, has been, do developers creating those apps get as much value out of Apple as the customers do? And that's a sort of debate that's ongoing at the moment, because I think they're currently developers are currently being charged something like 30% for being a part of the Apple App Store system, and starting to think, really, am I getting the value out of it, or am I getting ripped off by Apple?
Yeah, I think it's the beauty of the App Store and the universe. I was going to call it uniform. The universe that they have. Once you're in it, once you've invested in the product, you've made the choice that you're an Apple buyer. You've bought, the Apple Mac or your telephone. You really are locked into their system, whether it's iTunes or whether it is App Store for apps. And that we saw that even recently with an app or a game as popular globally as Fortnite, whereby those legal issues, etc., over the the splits of revenues and monies from that sale. So the beauty of the product is they have such a leading product, but also then anybody who invents a new product that wants to be sold through that, to that target audience, has to basically let Apple clip the ticket on it and make their money also. So it's just an incredible revenue maker. That also applies to iTunes, whereby you're doing that, and also to the movies, Apple Movies, etc., that are through their services also. So it lets them latch on to so many other aspects that they're not involved in the creation of it, but they're the gatekeepers. They own the means of delivery, the mechanism of delivery, because they in theory own the software, which is not using the usual system. So yeah, it really is almost a perfect model. You can see overlaps in methods such as the Nespresso pods, whereby you have to use certain pods to really be use that system. And even in older systems such as Xerox machines and printers, where you have that upfront investment, and then basically you're tied in as long as the machine lasts. And it's I suppose if you buy an Apple phone, you'd expect it to last, say, 2 years or whatever it is. But then there's also the other aspect whereby people's lives are in their phones now, which admittedly is quite sad, but they're tied into the phone based on telephone, photographs, messaging to friends and family, history. When you get a new Apple phone, you can transfer it across to the new one. So you're sort of locked in, even if you only have that phone for 2 years, you're sort of locked in for much longer than that.
Yeah, I suppose now people are tied into other Apple platforms, such as the Apple Watch, TV, iOS, the iPad, lots of different things. So they've got multiple platforms that that feeding through this one closed IT system, coding system, and they're driving huge amounts of traffic to these sites, both in terms of the developers that want to get onto that to sell their apps, and customers that want to be a part of it, and just have that huge range and access to sort of their IP, the whole ecosystem. And on that they've got like payment processing, they host, and they don't have any hosting fees for the developers. And there's huge amounts of just that the marketing spend to advertise apps for developers is huge. They just wouldn't get that visibility to their customer base without Apple Store. But saying that, great idea. Is it going to be disrupted? Yes, it is. Developers aren't fully happy with it. I think Apple has said that if developers are doing good business through them and the customers stay for more than a year or so, then they reduce the commission for developers to 15% as opposed to 30%. I suppose that's better than nothing, but it's still pretty high. And I think there's going to be competition in this market because really people want the IP, and I think it's a battle now to be even Netflix is suffering the same. It has everything. Everything's going through that currently, but now Disney are going to go direct and they're going to take all their IP with them. Equally, this could happen in the app space too, and it is already. So there are things for them that they've done really well. They've overcome many challenges in terms of competition with product development, Android phone, Samsung, etc. Now they're going through business model challenges. They obviously always have, been quite agile in their business strategy, are willing to adapt and pivot, and that is really one of the greatest achievements and features of Apple. And I'm just excited to see what happens next.
Yeah, I think fundamentally, I think we've all heard enough about Steve Jobs to last a lifetime and how, what a marketing and creative genius he was. And yeah, fair enough. A lot of the product and services and the beginning building blocks of this ecosystem was in place, based before he left the business and, left this mortal coil as well. So that was all in place. I suppose the question is with, as Joanna mentioned there, with Disney and these sort of companies, going more direct, because at the moment, I suppose you could argue it's like the old cinema chains, whereby Hollywood, the movie producers made the movies, but it was the people owning the cinemas had access, presented to the people. I suppose, or to the eyeballs. It's the same method now, the content creation, people, whoever they are, they could be, and they're moving more to people like Netflix also, so that's changing. But the content creation and then the mechanism of getting it in front of your eyeballs and who owns those eyeballs and who controls it, the gatekeeper, that is changing. And when it changes, will the Apple model, will it be the same in 10 years' time as it is today? It's how I would have to say it's unlikely. But at the end of the day, Apple has at the moment an absolute golden goose. And, it is giving probably what's called supernormal profits that you hear about in economics. And to be honest, unless you come up with something better to replace it, you've got to keep hoping that golden goose lays the eggs and don't kill the golden goose until you absolutely have to.
One thing for sure, I suppose, is that in that space, IT, online, internet, things move very, very quickly. And at the moment, there are giant platforms leading the way, taking most of the traffic. But they disrupted the brick and mortar real world, and I think pretty soon they're going to be disrupted by new competition, new ideas, and it's, as I say, it's an exciting space. I'm prepared. I can't wait to see a different set of brands in front of me, not just the usual four always, out there. Even in terms of the Amazons, Netflix, Apple. Yes, they've done exciting work, but it's time for a change.
Yeah, I'm going to go around and shop this idea to lots of private equity and venture capital companies. I'm going to come up with a new groundbreaking technology business to beat Apple and make mega millions. Anyone wants to invest? Yeah, give me a call. All right, I think we'll leave it there today. Thanks very much.
All right, thanks a lot.